Welcome to Tactical Talk. This is Zain Khan. Today, the topic of our show is India's attempt to join NSG. The guest of our show is Sabena Siddiqi, a lawyer and a senior geopolitical analyst. She has recently written an article on the topic, as you can see on your screens right now. Welcome to our show, Sabena Siddiqi. This is Zain Khan. It's a pleasure to have you on Tactical Talk.
Thank you, Zain. As always, pleasure to be on your show.
Sabena, let's get to the first question. What is the Nuclear Suppliers Group? What is its purpose and why was it formed?
Well, the Nuclear Suppliers Group is for controlling nuclear technology, and it was initially created to prevent misuse and leakage of technology and its proliferation. Interestingly, it was formed after India had a nuclear test in 1975. It had utilized nuclear technology which was given it by Canada and the United States for civilian and peaceful purposes to make an atom bomb. And right after this event, the need was felt to have a group and a discipline to control and monitor the exchange of nuclear technology and prevent new additions of countries emerging as nuclear states. And one special condition for admission to this group is that all the 48 members have to achieve consensus at any given time. And it is not possible for anybody to get membership without everybody's assent.
Sabena, what is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? Why are most NSG members its signatories? And why did certain countries refuse to sign it?
Well, this Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty actually has this condition that all the countries which are signatories, they put their nuclear assets under supervision. And some countries had objections to this, and India in particular felt that it was very discriminatory, and it had a lot of objections because, as you know, the entire Nuclear Suppliers Group was made because of India's unwarranted and deceitful use of nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. It used to make an atom bomb. So obviously it would not become a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and keep its weapons under supervision. So it had this issue, and then Pakistan also did not become a signatory because India wasn't, and Israel also hasn't become one of the signatories. So actually, India would never want to denuclearize because it has its ambitions. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, it came into effect since 1970, and it would be an aberration if India got into the NSG now without signing even the CTBT or the NPT, and later on have a nuclear arms race and use its leverage of being in the Nuclear Suppliers Group to threaten Pakistan. So it is necessary that this thing has to be sorted out, that why it wants to skip over the entire procedure of being an NPT signatory to get into the NSG. It's a shortcut that it's trying to achieve in a way.
What are the conditions for eligibility to become a member of the NSG, and why was India refused entry last year at the last plenary session?
Well, as we just discussed, India has not signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but however, it found a loophole because France, when it became a member of the NSG, it wasn't a signatory of the NPT for some time. Later on, it did become a signatory. So India used this as an excuse to wriggle into the NSG, but and it, of course, it had a huge support from the Obama government, which was willing to very strangely overlook this very important condition, and India really expected to become an NSG member without any issues. and it would be a really it would be really a disaster if it became an NSG member without having proper security, nuclear security. It has some of the worst nuclear security records in the world. It does not submit itself to the facilities, to the International Atomic Energy Commission, the IAEA, and it has not separated. India continues to run its nuclear facilities without proper nuclear security protocols or safeguards, and it is a hazard for the world. In the meantime, one of the main reasons that it is in such a haste is that it wants to become a member of this group before Pakistan becomes a member, because in the event that India becomes a member of the NSG, it can stay in there and block off Pakistan for for good in a way, because consensus won't be met, as is the basic condition of becoming an NSG member. So that is its political rivalry with Pakistan is also egging it on to do these things, and this is one of the main reasons that it wants to just get in there without any impediment and as fast as it can.
What is India's stand on the issue of India's membership, and which other countries raised the objections?
Well, China has a main objection was that India is not a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and it has suggested a two-step procedure to have a new kind of formal procedure for any new entries to the group. First of all, it wants it wants this set format to be decided, whereby a new member can be admitted. After that procedure is formalized, it wants individual applications of the new countries to be considered. Pakistan is also a prospective member. And once this procedure is finalized, in effect, it would mean that Pakistan and India would be entering the NSG at the same time, because both cases are so similar, both are non-signatories, that once a formal procedure for such cases is properly formalized, both countries will find themselves in the nuclear suppliers group at the same time. And last year, there were like 10 countries which had refused to go ahead with India's membership, which were like Russia, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and Turkey, China as well. And some of the countries were like in such a way that they had kept India's hopes up till the end that they would not have any objection. But on the day, they refused to give their assent. So India just chooses to ignore this premise that so many countries had objections. Obviously, I mean, it's a very outstanding thing that it's not meeting the proper criteria for the group, but it keeps to continuously blame China, and it believes that China has got some enmity with it or something like that. And it thinks that by blaming China, it will put some kind of pressure on China and it will give in. But China has even just recently, like last week, their foreign ministry representative has said that what has he said? He has said that India's membership is now even more complicated and there are new circumstances than it had previously imagined. Because obviously there are more and more repercussions of giving India entry in the group which are emerging, like, what would happen? In a way, NSG status for India is more of a ploy to get greater share in global nuclear policy making. And that is serious. And if admitted into NSG, it gets legitimacy without signing the NPT. So in a way, this kind of situation, it damages the very fabric and the very dynamics of the NSG group and the reason why it was formed.
Okay, Sabena, last question. What are Pakistan's prospects of joining the NSG and which factors work in its favor?
Well, Pakistan probably had no intention of joining the NSG because we don't believe in that kind of devious like things like joining a group without being an NPT signatory. But when India showed its interest and it tendered its application for the NSG, Pakistan felt really concerned that its entry would mean that it would get blocked out of the NSG for good, and probably new lobbying would start and a lot of nuclear political influence for India, which would be damaging for us. So we also applied for the membership in May, and the case is also similar. If China gets its way and it manages to formalize a two-step procedure and all, I mean, Pakistan has very good chances of getting into the NSG. And as it is, we have an excellent nuclear security record, and the IAEA has in fact proclaimed Pakistan a model nuclear power, because the kind of security procedures that we employ, the SPD employs, are like exemplary for even major world powers like America or the UK or India. Like, they all have had these incidents of where there has been negligence, and especially in India, there has been major negligence. So in contrast, Pakistan has an excellent record, and its inclusion in NSG would help in nuclear non-proliferation, and it would probably help further the objective of the NSG and the very reason why it was formed. I mean, Pakistan is a responsible new member for such a group, and it has always opened its facilities to the International Atomic Energy Commission, and it is I think it has a very strong case for becoming a member. And this kind of situation, it would help strategic stability in the region and create a balance between both these nuclear powers.
Thank you so much, Sabena Siddiqi, for being on Tactical Talk. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much, Zain, as always. A pleasure.
This was Sabena Siddiqi, a lawyer and a senior geopolitical analyst. We were discussing the topic of India's attempt to join the NSG. Until the next episode of Tactical Talk, this is Zain Khan. Take care and goodbye.